What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Word to Be Heard podcast. It's your boy Mario Johnson. We got an exclusive. I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps. I'm so excited to have my dog on here, man. I ain't gonna even do much of a little intro with that. We're just gonna cut straight to it, man. What's up, bro? How you doing, man? We got my dog, Doctor David Stewart.
I like that. I like how that sound. I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm
real
good.
Don't it, bro?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I like how that sound, man. What baby say, put some respect on it.
Put some absolute respect on my
it's
dog's name right now. Don't play with my voice.
it's good though. It's good. I'm enjoying it, brother. Good to be building with you as always.
No doubt, man. Thank you for allowing us to, have this kind of exclusive, to follow up. Thanks for letting us broadcast the actual dissertation defense. Like that was dope.
Yeah, man. It was something for me that I kind of wanted for people to see. Mm-hmm. And one of the dopest things about it for me has been people's stories afterward, where they would tell me, like I've had people tell me, yo, I wanted to be an architect, but I dealt with some of the stuff you talked about. Or people had their kids listening, like, yo, my son or daughter wants to go into it, and hearing you gave me like the idea of what I needed to do. So for me, it was one of the things that it helped me too, but I wanted to initially just share it with the people. And, if you heard it, my committee was like, yo, we ain't never seen a dissertation with like 60 people on it.
They was like, yo, that was awesome, man. We've never seen that much that many people come together. They never had that many people actually get on to watch something like that. So that was monumental. Like I've been calling it historic since day one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For me, it's like we made history, bro. Like this is awesome.
Well, yeah. Exactly. And then too, like I said, the dope thing was it was such a wide cross section of people, all backgrounds, all genders, all racial ethnicities, and it was people from all over the world. I had bros from Toronto on there, folks from England on there, like people were from all walks of life got to see that. So, for me, that was good for what I was talking about, but also showing that the subject matter was worth hearing. So that to me was just like, that was just chef's kiss for that.
It was perfect. That's what I can call it. There was nothing short of perfect, honest to God.
Thank you.
No doubt, man. So give us a little bit of insight. Like, the people who follow you on social media, you've kind of brought us along your journey, saying, through this whole process. But for the people who are kind of new to this, who didn't get the chance to kind of walk this path with you, kind of let us know what it was like, building up to that moment, man, building up to you actually making it to your defense.
It was 8 Mile on steroids, the short version. So, I started my PhD, I want to say July 2016. So, I documented it, hashtag Road to Dr. Stewart. So I took what's called your comprehensive exams in 2017, literally right after Hurricane Irma. Miami, like I'm literally hunkered down doing my comp exams. Had to get it done then. Then you go into your pre-research. Then I started my actual dissertation September of 2018. So the actual dissertation was about 3 years and a month. And it's an independent study on steroids, because it's really just you and your chair, and you're going through it. And it's so many different steps that, you do what's called a proposal defense, which is similar to what the final defense is, except those are the chapters 1, 2, and 3. Those get approved. And a lot of people don't realize you can't do your research if it's not approved by the IRB. So that means your research is null and void. You got to start over. And I'm gonna also talk about why what I just said is really important about the coronavirus research. Because a lot of people ask me, and I get why people sit on both sides of the fence of that. I don't get into that. But as someone now who is an active researcher, there are protocols in place to make sure certain things don't happen. And I mean, I wasn't even doing medical stuff, and there are things I had to do to make sure that my research didn't harm anybody or things like that.
Really?
Yes.
Now, hold that thought. How could your research harm somebody, given that it's not medically related?
Well, the thing is, I didn't have what's called, like, there are certain populations you got to be mindful of, like kids, anybody that's been abused and things like that. So
Oh,
the
okay,
harm
I
that a
got
lot of people think is not necessarily physical, but it could
It's
be
more of a mental.
psychological,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
things like that. So you, as the researcher, have a lot of responsibilities. And my thing, at the proposal stage is vetted. Like, okay, how are you going to do this? How are you going to make sure anonymity is you're not revealing anybody? You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot that goes into that I had to clear before I even got to do the research.
And like you
So
said,
it's a lot of work.
that's where you got the approval from the IRB.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And the
Yeah.
IRB, I'm assuming that's doing some type of
And so
review
that's the
board.
Institutional Research Board.
Okay,
So
okay.
one of the things is, like, I also have a certification now from the NIH, National Institute of Health. So
Hmm.
post Tuskegee, and you can look this up, the NIH was formed so that anybody developing things like that, you don't harm people. There's a whole process of research that you have to do steps before you can do active research on people.
Nice.
Whether it's medical trials, whether it's interviews, things like that. So
Yeah.
to me, it was a very eye-opening thing that is like, you see how it relates to another aspect of the world. But even though I did interviews, there was a whole process that I had to do. Like, how are you making sure these people are protected? How are you doing all this, that, and the third? Because that can completely invalidate your research.
Understood. Understood. Now, so we talked about how you can the process of getting started, even doing the
Mhm.
research. Now,
Right.
and you was asked this question during your defense, which I'm definitely going to attach your defense to this video.
Sure.
But what made you pick that particular topic?
So my background, for a lot of people that don't know, I started in architecture. That was like my initial career goal. So like from 12, I was like, yo, I want to do that. And a lot of kids grow up playing with Legos and things like that. I love buildings, and I still do. Still work in a capacity today, working in city government construction management. But what made it interesting for me is I joined an organization about 18 and 19. And then, when I was growing up, I was like, yo, why don't I see me?
Hmm.
Like as a kid, this is a true story. Like before I thought Frank Lloyd Wright was black because he had to be black making dope work. Then I saw him like, oh, that's a white guy. And that's no shade, but then I got into my undergrad and I'm like, I didn't meet a black licensed architect till I was like 20.
Hmm.
Like, and we're not
Yeah.
talking like 50 years ago. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, I was just like, wait a minute, you're an actual licensed architect. And I mean, for instance, I'm not licensed. There's a whole process that you have to become licensed. You can't just call yourself an architect. So it was just like, all right, cool. So I was in the field, I left the field. But for me, it was still something so important. And you heard some of the numbers that'll be in the defense video.
Hmm.
There's only 2,500, give or take, today, licensed black architects in the United States. And
Now,
as of
and
yeah,
keep in mind, we're talking out of a population of 400 to 500 million people.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And we're 18 to 20% of that.
Right.
And even of that 2,500, you're only talking like 532 as of October 29th, black women that are licensed architects in 2021. So for me, it was just like, well, even though I don't want to be licensed, that intrigues me. Like, well,
Hmm.
why?
Right.
So that's why for me, I'm always passionate about architecture and the built environment. And then for me, it was just one of those things that no one has had, that I've observed or I even researched, had a academically rigorous discussion about how to increase those numbers. So as I said in the defense, the reason we are blessed to have basketball players is because we had Jordan. You see LeBron, you see Kobe,
Right.
we see rappers, we see that, but we don't see architects, right? And there's other gems that I didn't even drop in there. Like for instance, the movie Jungle Fever was about a black architect that Spike Lee. I actually know the architect that actually worked on that movie. You know what I'm saying? Like we're part of the built environment, even down to how we've flipped houses even during slavery, of shotgun houses, and
Hmm.
why they're called that. A black man had a very big impact on the building of Washington, D.C. But these facts are not known.
Right. I was going to ask you because we're focusing heavily a lot of your quotes. Well, on
Mhm.
one particular, was he a psychologist or was he an architect? A lot of the,
Whitney
I can't
Young.
remember. Whitney Young, yeah.
Still,
A lot of your quotes were referencing him, and
mhm.
you had mentioned a few other names, but I was I was going to ask, but I didn't want to, extend out the decisioning process because we wanted to go ahead and hear that doctor come to play. But
Yeah.
I was going to ask about the actual designer of DC, Benjamin Banneker, and if people honestly knew who that was and kind of what his inspiration was. Going all the way back to, well, he was from London, if I'm not mistaken, and they named Big Ben after him. The clock.
Correct.
Yeah.
There, Benjamin Banneker, and there was another gentleman named L'Enfant, and it escapes me right now because my mind is still kind of recovering from that. Everything is Googleable. But one of the things that I did want to kind of pivot, because you brought up a good point, is, and it goes back to what I just said, is how have we impacted the built environment? So to give context, Whitney Young, everyone knows Whitney Young, Urban League, things like that.
Right.
Whitney Young gave a speech to the American Institute of Architects in 1968, in June of 68, which is one of the starting points of my dissertation. He gave the speech in Portland, Oregon, less than 3 months after Brother Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. And
I remember you noted that, yeah.
Yeah, and this speech is, you can Google this and find this entire 11-page speech. And he eviscerated the architects of the country and talked about their lack of social awareness, their lack of, being compassionate about African Americans. And people say, well, what's an architect's role in that? When you look at things like projects, the very nature of projects are not meant to socially and economically function well. They're vertical slave ships. Mm-hmm. So you put people in this stacked up building thing, and they don't have economic means to support themselves. So you're breeding a situation of economic blight. Things like redlining in real estate, where, only Black people back in the days could only stay in certain spots. That's the built environment impacting a culture of people. And then in cities like Chicago, Miami, you have expressways that go through Black neighborhoods, that split up the neighborhoods, and things like that. So people don't realize how the built environment has formed the neighborhoods in our culture subconsciously. So going back to Whitney Young, it was that starting point of, okay, this man, who's himself not an architect, nothing like that, but went after the trade association of the profession and embarrassed them so much that they then created a scholarship, which is a Band-Aid on a shotgun wound from a personal perspective. But even that scholarship, which was founded shortly after that, was renamed the Minority Scholarship in 2014. And to me, that's a very touchy subject, but Black people have dealt with a lot in this country, and that's not to minimize anybody else's struggle.
Right.
But diversity has been built on the initiatives and backs of Black people.
Exactly.
And then terms like BIPOC come into play, whereas like Black, Indigenous, people of color, but lumping of minorities allows people not to speak specifically to Black issues.
Right.
Which is what I retorted on. Right. Exactly.
Right. Because we always run into a situation, and a lot of the, Black historians, the Black civil rights leaders would always, bring this up, is that why can't we have our own specified movement? Right. Why does it have to be civil rights? Who is civil? And why are we fighting for his or her rights? Why can't it be Black rights? You know what I'm saying? So I definitely agree with you on the fact that, when you say minority, well, minority is such a general term. Because we have women, you have, like you say, Indigenous people, you have basically anyone who's not white, for the most part, is considered a minority in this country. So it opens up the door, and it pretty much allows us to get drowned out. Right.
And that's what I covered. And that was something that me and my committee kind of went back and forth over, and the thing in this country, which is, it's hard to talk about this for some people, but it's not for me. Other people are allowed to exist in a space of nationalism where it's like, it's cultural. So for instance, when you look at a day like St. Patrick's Day, right? It is an Irish-based holiday, and it's pride in those Irish people who came over here, who reminisce back to the old country. When you look at Cinco de Mayo, it allows Mexican people who are here or from Mexico to kind of bond with their culture. And semantics is a very dangerous word, because whenever Black nationalism is brought up, the term militants come up.
Right. We become extremists.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's interesting, because Black Americans are not allowed that because most Black Americans cannot trace directly back where they are from in Africa. So at max, we are only able to say we're African, which is a misnomer because
Mhm.
Africa is a continent.
Right.
It's not like the
Right.
United States where we have states in a country and you're
Yeah.
an American, but you may be from Illinois or wherever. You're African, and Africa has 54 countries. So when you say I'm African American, that's a misnomer.
Mhm.
So it's so many things that these conversations bring up, and now with EDI, or diversity, inclusion, and equity being buzz terms, I prefer die because for my own dark sense of humor reasons. Um, a lot of people are saying, okay, well, it's performative actions. Performative meaning, okay, well, we're going to rename this that. All right, that's great, but that's not really dealing with the systemic problem. And in
Right.
architecture, for me, that was like, okay, how can we deal with this mathematical problem? The problem is that we're not even 10, the architects in our community are not even 10%. We don't have 10% of our own people that are architects.
Mhm.
And then further, which I did not get into, and this is something I'm working on later, our celebrities don't know who we are, who the Black architects are. So, we talk about things like first thing every Black celebrities tends to want to do is what? Buy mama a house.
Right.
So for instance, and not to divert or run on a tangent, but when I heard Kanye's recent thing on Drink Champs and he talked about he was in architecture, cool. But you talk about Black this and Black Wall Street, have you tried to find a Black architect? And that's not to knock Satachi or Japanese architecture because Kanye is a
Mhm.
big fan of Japanese art. I'm a fan of it.
Mhm.
But for me, when you talk about Black Wall Street, how can you talk Black economics when you're not talking about the people that actually build the environment? That's a huge question for me.
It is. Yeah.
So I think that my goal is for my dissertation to bring forth a larger conversation within the built environment, but also kind of make diversity a real quantifiable conversation.
Mhm.
Because right now it's not. Everyone is like, oh, well, we want to be diverse, and it's a buzzword post George Floyd, post 45, post Obama, but it's like, how are we actualizing it? And that's a hard question for some people because it's like, okay, I don't want to just hire a Black because you're Black. I want you to be qualified. Fair. But then I retort the question, are you actively looking for people that are qualified or are you looking to check a box? And it's the
Right.
same in the built environment that
Right.
when I look in Black neighborhoods, the Chicagos, the Harlems, the Overtowns, the Harlems, where are we? We're struggling to even get Black people who work in the built environment to be out there actually building it, let alone the person who might be African American who designed it. And there are Black buildings all around us that are designed, but we don't have the same spotlight that basketball has or the same spotlight that music has. And that's no shade because I'm still an MC. So that's a reality that I tried to drive through my research.
Right. Now, one could say, and one has said, many ones have said, that's done by design. That's not an accident.
Hmm.
You put forth certain images of people in certain, aspects of their lives, and certain careers to
Sure,
kind
sure.
of push that upon the generations behind them. So most people aspire, and I hate to say it, but you have a lot of people aspiring to be a athlete or aspiring to
Hmm.
be an entertainer. To that
Yeah,
point, you don't have many people aspiring to be a doctor
right,
unless they grew up with doctors in their family, that have
right.
that direct influence. Hell, when I was growing up, I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to be a basketball player. I got introduced into computer engineering purely on accident because I was curious about. Honest to God, I was curious.
Okay.
I went to electrical school. My
Mm.
stepdad he did instrumentation,
Okay.
so he calibrated instruments on at chemical plants, and he convinced me to go to electrical school for electrical technology. I went.
Hmm.
I was great. You know, got my electrician's license, my journeyman's license,
Okay.
and was doing good. But I saw a brother, and this is where we talk about representation really matters. I
Yeah.
saw a brother who was working in the front office at the
Hmm.
plants that we were working on, and whenever he came outside, a lot of people straightened up. And when I say straightened up, I mean they were on their P's and Q's. Like he
Yes,
had,
sir.
he had no white boys, chasing their tail. when he stepped out the door. So I called him to the side one day. I said, "Hey, man, what do you do?" He said, "Well, I'm an engineer." I said, "Why is it that every time you walk outside, these white boys straighten up?" He said, "You like that shit, don't you?" No lie. That's exactly what he said. He said, "You like that shit, don't you?" I said, "Hell yeah." I said, "I'm trying to get in the position that you're in because I was always looking to do better." And he said, "Look, don't do what I'm doing because I can be replaced." He was kind of ahead of his time. He saw what was coming as far as computers and AI, things like that. He said, "Get into computers. Learn how to code, work on and do systems with computers. That's where everything's going." I had no fucking clue about a computer, excuse my language, whatever, we grown, but I had no idea how computers work, anything like that. Dead ass serious, man. But he was adamant. Like every time he saw me, "Hey man, did you go talk, to the college yet? Did you go talk to the college yet? What are you waiting on?" Like it basically got to the point that where he legit asked me, he said, "Dude, if I see you in here one more fucking time and I ask you that question, and you tell me you haven't done it yet, I'm gonna fire your ass." It was just that deep.
Yeah.
And I went and did it. And I wish I could find that brother today to shake his hand because, again, representation. I saw him in a powerful position, which made me want to get in that, a similar powerful position. And he got him in the right direction,
Absolutely.
And circling that back, looping that all back in because, we all talk on a tangent because the mind is going in a million different places at one time.
Right.
That's kind of where I brought up the whole, they show us entertainers and they show us athletes by design. Because if we were to see these very powerful brothers and sisters in true professional career-oriented positions, we would aspire to be more like them versus aspiring to be, you got one LeBron James, you're only going to ever have one LeBron James. You got one Michael Jordan, you're only going to have one Michael Jordan. So on and so forth. You got one Beyonce. The odds are 1 in 1 billion. You know what I'm saying? In that regard. But when we talk about architecture, we talk about engineering, we talk about, the cliche doctors, lawyers, which are very important, judges for that matter, politicians, the odds are heavily in your favor that you can be successful in those realms versus trying to be that 1 in a billion.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about. It possibly being done by design. I'm not gonna say possibly. I'm not gonna throw that out there. It is being done by design. Most people like to talk in that gray area, so it gives them a little wiggle room to get out of it. So they can't. You can't hold your feet to the fire if it ever came to it. I'm not gonna do that. I don't like to do that. It is being done by design. We know it's being done by design. Call that shit out. And that's why I respect what you're doing because that's what you did in your dissertation defense. You called that shit out.
And you got to. And the thing is, it's a double-edged sword because a system is only as strong as how you notice from electrical. A system is only as strong as the design of the system.
Right.
Right. But the caveat now is things like data, not information, because most people don't know the difference. Data is a game changer, right? So everything that I mentioned, I'll tell anybody, Google it, verify me, find out if it's true.
Right.
So if you can go Google BS, go Google Paul Revere Williams, right? So to me, that's where it becomes a level playing field. The system is in place long before us. The system will exist after us.
Right.
You can't deny the system. That's not conspiratorial. That's not conspiracy. That's fact. There's obviously been a system historically in this country of X, Y happening to Black people through various means. That's not conspiracy at all. However, it becomes incumbent upon us to understand said system and then how to navigate through, past, over, or under, whatever, to be successful and then find a way to impact back to somebody else, right?
Right.
Because a lot of people will say, oh, well, the system's that and the third. As Black men, you ain't got to tell us nothing about the system. We know, because at the end of the day, Dr. Stewart or not, if I walk outside right now and the cop stops me, it could be
Black
smoke.
man. Yeah.
Period. Right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. But one of the things, and you bring up a good point, and one of the people that changed my view of that was an undergrad, a Haitian professor who I actually work with now in the profession. When I first had this dude, I was literally Ice Cube's character in Higher Learning. I was that dude. I was everything against me is racism. Woo, woo, woo. Haitian brother, about dark as your shirt, super smart. And I remember him telling me, like, no, sometimes your work is just trash. And I'm like, bro, at first I'm thinking, oh, you one of us. You
You're
got
supposed
me,
to have
right?
my back. What are you
You know what I'm
doing?
saying?
Yeah,
And he really like undressed that concept for me. Like, and to this day, we still talk. He's like, I deal with racism. I know it's a real thing, but I can't be so wrapped up in that I forget why I'm here in the first place. And for
exactly.
me, that talk brought me back full circle because it's like I still love buildings. I didn't love buildings because of race. I still think buildings are cool. Like I like watching buildings come up, and I know someone drew that. Somebody's mind thought of that and put it on paper. The house we in, the mic we're talking from, it was designed and
Mhm.
created. I still like that. But I can't ignore race. When people like I laugh when people say I don't see
People,
color. That's
but like,
bullshit because you
it's
don't
that's
run
crazy.
light.
You have to. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like that. Yeah, I agree with you. That's absolute bullshit. Now, see, one thing I will say to back up what you just said in regards to understanding the system. Not playing victim to the system. Not, because I think that's basically what you just said is,
Mhm.
when everything's against you, everybody's against you, so on and so forth. You got that. You're angry. You got that anger.
Mhm.
But when you having that awareness and then being able to use that to your advantage is powerful because of the fact that, okay, we know it's a system. Okay,
Mhm.
we've operated in this system from the day we were born. You get what I'm saying? You and me
Mhm.
personally. So we know the system. We know the game. Figure
Mhm.
it just like with any game that comes out, on PlayStation or Xbox or whatever the hell. Figure
Right.
it out, understand the rules of it, beat it.
And I
And it's
think
not something that's gonna happen overnight.
it's right. And I think,
Mhm.
with it becomes incumbent now that as we, both in our 40s,
Mhm.
we have roles to speak back to the youth. As I made a post and a lot of people were asking me how do I feel afterward. I have my own emotions, but it was like I'm here because of multiple villages and tribes
Mhm.
that prayed for me, that like the professor that pushed me, that gave me that tough love, that, I'm only here because I was blessed to be here to be, thank God for being stubborn and thank God for people for pushing me in a direction. That's the honest truth. So people are like, well, you must be smart as a PhD. No, you're a glutton for pain and you got tenacity. PhD don't mean smart. It just means you're a glutton for pain. So that's all it is.
You
You just
refuse to
have to be
quit.
like, all right, I'm not gonna quit.
Yeah, you refuse
Um,
to quit.
but the thing is, it's like I feel like even more so now, I do have a responsibility to show that, hey, one of the best comments I got was someone told me like they wanted their son is interested in buildings and the kid can't be no older than set like 5 or 6 and they didn't know where to go and I don't talk about that all the time and they were like hearing your dissertation gave me ideas and my thing is what does it cost me to be like, yo, your kid is interested in this, go here. Your kid's interested in that, talk to this person. What does that cost me? You don't get a pat on the back for it, but it's like someone did that for me. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And representation matters. Is it nice from a certain egotistical standpoint to be like I'm Dr. Stewart? Of course it is. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. But at the same token, beyond that 10% of ego, I still have 90% of responsibility. Okay, you got it. Now what? Like, how are you making the world better? What are you contributing to beside being somebody with 2 letters in a period? And that's
Right.
something I've thought a lot about since, a week and a half ago that I have
Mhm.
things that I'm planning on because at the end of the day, it's about influence and impact. When I
Mhm.
leave this rock, if I haven't influenced or impacted people, all the degrees and everything really don't mean nothing.
Doesn't matter.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, that's the kind of my mindset has been since then.
Nice. And that's actually when we were setting up before we actually started this live. And I said I had some questions I wanted to ask you, but I'm gonna shut the hell up until we actually get
Yeah.
to That's one of the main things I wanted to ask you, man. So what now? Like what's the next step or the next stage in this process? Like what's on the agenda?
um, some things I can't quite let out yet.
Mhm.
But there's some publishing coming along. I'll say that. I got to pick
Nice.
my words
Nice.
carefully.
Yeah.
And for me, this is then, taking this research and bringing it to the appropriate bodies to go, what you gonna do?
Mm.
There's that. Beyond that, I have ventures and other things like that, but specific to this research is intended to not only start a conversation, but the people who need to hear the conversation will take it or actualize it. And the beautiful thing about research is research can be trumped, no pun intended. My thing is, if this isn't it, then find another way to make this happen. Because the other baseline that's of my research of this dissertation study is that these two organizations, the American Institute of Architects and the National Organization of Minority Architects in 2001, said the goal was to have 15,000 licensed architects by 2030. Let me say that again. In 2001, two organizations said 15,000 architects by 2030.
30. Here we are, 21 years. We're 20 years later.
We're 20 years later, and we're at 2,500.
Yeah, drastically missing the mark. Like, what are we doing here?
Right. Yeah. These two organizations have memorandums of understanding, which are great on paper. And the question then is, why? What are we not doing? Right. That's not necessarily an indictment to either or both, but my goal as a researcher is to, all right, these are my recommendations to help increase that number.
Right.
That number may not make it.
To help fulfill your plan, to help you guys accelerate this process so that you can meet that goal.
Right. And one of the toughest parts of my research, which was discussed in the dissertation, was in my study, my participants said that white people will benefit more from diversification and Black people will benefit the least. And that was quite a spirited discussion, if you remember, during my defense, because it goes back to what we said earlier, where diversification, you and I know the system, so we're preaching to the choir. The thing is, people in power have to really want, not to have empathy, but really want equity, right? Like, don't toss me a scholarship and say, oh, we've helped the Black people. Like, I used to always say this in certain speaking engagements I would have. I'd be like, are you okay with me being your boss? And you could just see the micro expression.
I was about to say, that's when everything changes.
Well, exactly.
That's
because
when it becomes
diversity,
a serious conversation.
Exactly. Because diversity is at the bottom of any organization, right? Most people will donate money. Oh, we're going to hire urban, that language, underprivileged youth. Well, what happens when one of them youth work their way all the way up and want to be the CEO? This kid, whoever he is, he or she has got the qualifications, they got the education, they got the experience, but it always seems to be something, right? And then what ends up happening from personal observation is, for instance, in the C-suite, you have chief diversity officers. The fucking joke. Chief diversity officers have no power because they don't have to report. No one reports to them. So, you'll put a chief diversity officer and do these diversity initiatives. But the thing is, if it's not really inculcated into the culture of the organization, they are not going to change. And those are the things that my study wanted to have a hard look at within this profession. And unfortunately, what we're talking about is not just specific to this profession. We can even apply it to the things we talk about, like sports and entertainment. We could be a rapper, but it was an issue when Jay became president of Def Jam.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You could be Jordan, but Jordan can't own a whole team. How much money has Jordan made for other people? And Michael Jordan can't own a whole basketball team. Yeah. My last example, and this one I've been following a lot, is the discussion of Black quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm a big football fan.
That's a good conversation there. That's a real good conversation.
Because it's always a question of the quarterback's IQ and things like that. For the listeners that don't understand that, that's a question. You're nicely saying, are Black quarterbacks smart enough to know the reads, to understand that? And this is some of what Colin Kaepernick discussed even further in his documentary.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't want to cut you off, but I definitely was going to mention that he definitely touched on that a lot in his documentary.
And sports, a lot of people, sports is not just dumb jocks. In every sports, there's a certain level of strategy that one has to absorb to be good at it. Like even down to, basketball, how you move your feet, how you read zones, how you understand that. Same in basketball. For me, I played baseball. It's so much strategy into it. But it's like whenever it's a position of leadership, a black body is always questioned. And even with the women, right? Like in Chicago, shout out to the Chicago Sky, they won the WNBA. And recently I was somewhere and this Caucasian gentleman was like, well, that's a big deal. Like, excuse me? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's passive aggressive comments like that that remind us that, okay, there's still a lot of outmoded and outdated thinking, so to bring that whole back, diversity is always at the bottom. But whenever, and this is not to unfortunately just specific to black people, but I speak to black people because I'm black and that's my experience. But it always seems like black people always come up at the bottom end of the totem pole. And that's a conversation that I try to have unemotionally, which is why I love research now, because I am passionate about it. It's like when a black person doesn't get to make the same screw up a white person does. If a black man or a black woman is assertive, they're an angry black man, angry black woman. The white man, white woman does it, it's like, oh, they're a go-getter. It's things like that where it's like, you can't keep pissing on me and telling me it's apple juice. I'm not crazy. So that's why these conversations, and for me in research, is so important to move the needle forward. Like I've seen how my research made people uncomfortable. And it was kind of cool, because it's like, let's have that conversation. Even amongst my committee, that there were certain things in my findings where they were like, well, you should have did this. And I'm like, no, not. No. Because, my thing is, you water down what the focus was, right? Like, what do I tell a person of Hispanic descent to not value Spanish, right? You don't tell a Native American person not to value his or her culture or their tribe. Right. But I'm always told to make you comfortable to assimilate. And, I think I referenced Brother Dr. King, where he talks about, he feels like he integrated into a burning house. Yep. And a lot of people, jail. Yeah. And a lot of people don't like that comment from Dr. King, because when we fought for a certain level of integration, there were certain things that changed and they weren't for the better, right? Integration culturally was going to happen because humans are humans. Right. We were going to mix. Exactly. But when we talk about economic integration, it destroyed us. And as I, and I referenced this in the dissertation, and I referenced this, and it might not have been recorded, but when I talked to them, I was like, America's not a melting pot, it's a salad bowl. It does not melt. It's a whole bunch of things and you just stir it up. America's a salad bowl. It is not a melting pot. This is not fondue. It does not turn to gumbo. Salad don't melt. It's tomatoes, it's salad, it's onions. It don't melt. And that's America, because everyone still loves their individuality. And that, to some degree, what makes this country great. We have ... American. We have African American, we have Italian American, and we have all these things that have contributed to the culture, but people still want to know their roots. And again, everyone else can know their roots, but us. There goes the problem.
Exactly. That is truly the problem. Two things I wanted to circle back on that you touched on. Making them feel comfortable. Even I noticed that sometimes I do it, and I try to be very conscious of when I'm going out of my way to make white people feel comfortable so that I don't do it. Not in a disrespectful way, but in a, you're going to respect me as a person. That's the same way I'm going to respect you as a person way, because of the fact that whenever we say something that not even gets close to the line, but as appearing to come close to that line, we always have to throw our little fine print in there. We always have to say, not to say that this other person or this other group of people aren't as important, or not to say we can never just be specific and say, well, black people don't get this, black people don't get that. we always have to add that little asterisk there.
The qualifying statements.
Right. Not to say that, Mexicans don't deserve it, or not to say that, like let's talk about, and I like I said, I got two things I wanted to mention here, but let's talk about how the reparations talk has been going on for a very long time. Kind of, brushed under the rug, thrown out the window. But when we talk about the Afghan refugees, the talk is, well, we're going to give each one of them $450,000. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not the Afghan refugees. It's the people that were displaced at the border, the border people that were separated. We're going to give each one of them $450,000. Well, wait a minute now, because didn't you just get through? We just have pictures that they definitely tried to tell you that what you saw you didn't see, of Border Patrol whipping Haitians. Then didn't we just see that? Didn't we just have images of that? So where is the same type of, not compassion, screw your compassion, where's the same type of action that's being done for those people? They're suffering from a natural disaster. Circling back, people are still, making excuses for that lack of action. They have always made excuses. Forget all that, man. Say something, stick behind it, and let's do it. That's the one thing I want to talk about. I had wanted to mention is the fact that let's not, when you talk about watering down, let's stop, adding that, like you said, a qualifying statement. Let's stop putting that asterisk there. Let's speak specifically about the struggles that we have. They know it exists. We've been literally screaming this exact same song for centuries, not weeks, not months, not decades, for centuries. And when
you bring up some some good points. I didn't want to interrupt. I got some ideas to retort to.
You're good. Go ahead.
So you bring up, and it's funny you mention that, as I have the Haitian flag hat on. My connection to Haiti is from working in Haiti.
Nice.
After the earthquake. Actually went on behalf of the frat. Haiti changed me so much as a person that my final will and testament, my ashes go there.
Nice.
In the case of Haiti, and everything I'm saying is documented. Short version, Napoleon got his ass kicked by Toussaint Louverture.
Yes, correct. And that's where actual Watch Night comes from.
Right. And right. So after after France got their ass kicked by Haiti, in a moment of pure petty, they deforested the entire island of Haiti. So if you look at Haiti from a map of Hispaniola between Haiti and Dominican Republic, it's night and day when you look at vegetation. All right. Haiti since then has gone through so much, from American occupation by the Marines to things like that. And then to show you how petty France was, how you lose a war and then make the victor pay you for losing.
Yeah, whether it was equivalent to like $1 billion or something.
Yeah, it was like 25 million that when you estimate it over inflation, it comes to like $1 billion. And that debt wasn't cleared till like sometime in the mid 20th century.
It just got cleared.
Yeah, Yeah. So, even historical, when we look at things like Elian Gonzalez, Cubans versus Haitians.
I remember
that. The visual of that. Haiti has dealt with a lot, and it's like no one wants to have that conversation. I often tell people, because people ask, am I Haitian? No. I said, but Black Americans owe a debt of gratitude to Haiti, which is why I wear this hat. Because if it wasn't for Toussaint Louverture and a successful revolution on January 1st, 1804, Nat Turner and them don't get the courage to do what they did. Other revolutions don't get the courage that lead to 1863 and 1865. Fact. The issue that this country has, though, is racism just won't go away. You can't explain it away. You can't put a president there to make it go away. You can't put a Black female vice president. It's something that this country really needs to discuss. And racism is as American as apple pie and baseball. That's the convo we don't want to talk. And the perpetrators.
And that's another thing I want to correct. It's not that we don't want to talk about it. It's that they don't want to talk about it. I'm not. Right. I no longer want to include us. I'm trying to include us in that we conversation.
Not all of us, but some of us don't. So, some of my philosophies on things have pivoted over the years. Like, I'll give a great example. My dad, God rest his soul, was a black man raised in Arkansas. My father actually chopped cotton. I
Mhm.
seen the fields where my dad actually picked cotton in Arkansas. And I remember when I was in my 20s, I was feeling myself. And I asked him, I use gratuitous usage of the word in the nigga all the time. I'm like Paul Mooney. I'm sorry if it makes you offended. But I remember I asked my dad, I was like, you shouldn't use that word. He said, it's interesting. I like using the word because you called me nigga. I was like, he was like, I didn't come up with that. You called me that. So how come you now feel bad for what you called me? And I bring that up because I thought about that during the dissertation when I think about critical race theory.
Mhm.
Critical race theory is a very interesting concept because, as I saw a meme, so the grandparents who existed in the 50s who did what they did now want to take the history out of the history book
Yeah.
of what they did.
Yeah, and they don't
So
want
it's
their
like,
grandkids to know what they did.
you
Yeah.
know, and to some people this is controversial. I
What's
don't want y'all to
controversial about
remove.
it?
No, but here's what's controversial.
Uh-huh.
I don't want you to remove those statues. Keep them up. Don't change history. You did what you did. Stand on it. And to me, some of the biggest issues in this country are north of the Mason-Dixon line.
Mhm.
See, one thing about the South that I do appreciate, even though they use that treasonous flag, you know where they stand. My problem is pseudo liberals.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's why I like to Get
Yeah.
Out, because it was so much in that movie where it was like, oh, I voted for Barack Obama, and if I could, I'd vote for him again. That don't mean you like my black
I'm not
ass.
saying then what? Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's performative, right?
Yeah.
So, like here in Chicago recently, they renamed Lakeshore Drive Jean Baptiste Dusable Lakeshore Drive.
Mhm.
Dope. You tore down the statue of Columbus. Dope. You pissed off the Italians, by the way. But the fact of the matter is, black businesses are still struggling to get loans. There are still problems when
Mhm.
black applicants apply for housing. There's
Yeah.
still problems in various industries, including architecture and construction. So my
Mhm.
thing is, when are we gonna stop putting band-aids on shotgun wounds? Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's when race becomes a difficult question, because now what happens is you see the savior complex of, oh, well, I donated to this and I do that. That's great. Okay, cool. I appreciate it. But do you really want to change the problem? Or you just want to be able to say, I've done just enough so it doesn't apply to me. And that's
Exactly.
where the term white privilege becomes so powerful, because privilege is the ability to not have to deal with a problem that someone else does.
That's true.
you
That's
know
true.
and I love this discussion because sometimes it just makes people squirm, and that's just a jerk in me. But I also apply it to other things. Like, for instance, we as men do not know what women go through, don't matter race, color, whatever.
Mhm.
That doesn't excuse me from a base level of empathy, right?
Mhm.
Like, okay, I have to be aware of what women deal with, right or wrong. So why is the same thing as I may not be one person, but that doesn't mean I excuse understanding their situation or even making myself aware of it. But
Mhm.
in this country, people will try to scholarship it away, or, oh, I listen to rap music it away, or I date black it away. Like, yo, that is not the cure for the problem. That's performative. And I love it when I hear, oh, I can't be racist. I date black. No, that's a fetish. I don't know if that's even love, depending on your situation. You're
Yeah.
fetishizing black. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It fits in the narrative of, oh, okay, I like strong black men, or I like sexy black women. We're people too. Black
Mhm.
people want security, safety, the kids to grow up, and
Right.
economic movement like
Right.
everybody else. But the racism today isn't always overtly calling me nigger. The racism of today is denying me the basic humanity of the things that we are talking about.
Yep.
So when I look at George Floyd, everyone's discussed it 90 ways, and then compare Kyle Rittenhouse, which is currently in the news.
Yeah.
I, I, I I must admit, and maybe this is wrong to admit, that seeing that little white boy make them fake tears tickled my spirit today. And
Yeah.
the reason it did, and it's a serious matter,
Mhm.
is if a black person went across state lines, with an assault rifle,
Armed, yes.
armed with
Armed.
an AR-15
Going
and a
to
shotgun.
a rally.
This kid has no law enforcement license, no private investigation license, and even there's no justification for a long gun.
Mm-mm.
And then people say, "Well, is race an issue?" Like, come on. In the Ahmaud Arbery case,
Mm-hmm.
the judge threw out the ability to use certain terms. I
You
think
can't
no,
call
it wasn't.
them.
It was the Kyle Rittenhouse. So it was like you
You can't
can't
call them
call them
victims.
looters, victims, or something like that,
You
right?
can't call them victims, but you can call them looters.
Correct.
Yeah.
In the Ahmaud
Yeah.
Arbery case, they say it's a jury of your peers. I've been to Savannah, Georgia. You have 11 jurors and one black juror.
One
I ain't
black
saying they got to
juror.
be all black, but let's play math. 6 and 6.
Right.
Make it fair.
Right.
So those are the things that I often use this metaphor again. Stop pissing on me and calling it apple juice.
Mm-hmm.
When you see things like that, and then the country says, don't have a reaction. You can't be angry, right? So these are the conversations that make this so powerful
Mm-hmm.
in today's context. And everything we're talking about for the most part is 2021.
Literally.
Not, you know what I'm saying? Not
Yeah.
1991, not 1951, not 1921. 2021. So the issue is, if we're still having these issues today, why? Right? And it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to not be. I think was the quote by Baldwin or Du Bois, to be black and enlightened is to live in like constant state of rage. It's a lot of truth to that, because
to be conscious in black.
you have to be conscious, correct?
Yeah, you have to
And
be
it's true,
constantly
because
angry.
it's an awareness,
Mm-hmm.
but then you still have to have a base level of humanity, like, because you'll be mad all the time. You'll be like Buddy's character in School Days. You're just angry all the time.
Yeah.
And you can't deny your base humanity, right? Like, to still exist. And it's hard not to at times be so bitter because of what you see. And I mean, we know the qualifying statements. Both you and I both know that we have friends of all walks of life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All walks of life. But it is natural survival instinct to care about your tribe. And that's one of the things that my dissertation I was very passionate about. I'll say in my defense is that you can't ask me to deny caring about my tribe to care about everybody else's, right? In this case, our black architects are my tribe.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends in other tribes of other nationalities, and I love architecture, but this is my tribe. Don't deny me my humanity. And I think that's something that, especially in academia, which kind of pivoting is another thing, being black and doing a PhD is an experience that is hard to put into words, because so many people you're carrying the dreams of so many other people, family included, but you exist in a space that it's hard to find a peer that gets it because they've been through it. And these are all the things that everything I'm talking about is what I'm thinking about, not only in my dissertation, but I'm thinking because it's real time to me. It's not just a subject that when I close the book, it's over. Mm-hmm. And all this, and then you have to channel, for lack of a better word, this energy, because you don't want to go up there just like, it's tempting. Like, look, motherfucker, it ain't none of us in this motherfucking field, and I'm tired of this bullshit. Where the black folk at? Oh, we tearing this bitch up. You can't do that, So you have to channel that. And going back to what you mentioned, where you had like the dude who was pushing you. I had so many people who did the same for me. That was like, yo, get your work done. When I didn't want to. It's times I wanted to stop. And it's like you're carrying all this, and it's like it made me reflect on other people's experience. Like, what was it like to be the first person to integrate schools in Arkansas?
Right.
What did Jackie Robinson go through to play? And I'm not the first in this regard in anything, but it's like when you exist in a space that is so few of people that look like you, you are forced to have a situational awareness that is almost military, because it's like, yo, everything I'm doing is being watched. Got to be on my P's and Q's.
Literally.
So I say all that to say, after defending, I still have a heightened awareness, because people like, did you celebrate? Got something to eat and I went to sleep. God honest truth, because it's just like I'm in a place that people are so happy for me, and I'm thankful for that. But it's like there are not many people you can talk to that are at where you at. Like
Mm.
baseball players talk to baseball players, right? Alphas talk to alphas. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? It's like, I feel like, oh shit, we're one of the seven jewels now. And it's like, oh, okay, outside of y'all, like, well, you gotta find some more people. So, it's so much psychology behind what I've done for me that I'm still kind of like, beyond the two letters in the period, as I call it, because it means a lot. But it's like it was so much to get there that I think it's gonna be a year before I like come down. Because it's like this has been my life for 3 years and a month, 3 years and a month, 3 weeks, and I think 2 days. Who's counting? Who's counting?
Sounds familiar.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's been your life, and then it's like, wow, it's done. And I've been doing a lot of talking to people like, man, I want to go get my PhD. Is any because people were like, well, what advice would you give me? I was like, think about it. You really want to do this?
Yeah.
You really want to do this?
Yeah.
Because there are parts of the journey that I did not share publicly. Some things, I shared, but it took a lot. I lost a lot. I gave up a lot to get here. So if you're not willing to do that, and if you don't know your why, you shouldn't do it.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. That's the similar conversation that they had with me when I was considering, and actually, you had the same conversation with me too, when I was considering becoming a brother of the greater fraternity and all that.
Oh, I remember that conversation. What's your why? You gotta know why.
Make sure it's something you really, really want to do.
Yeah. Because ego drives us. And people think ego is a bad thing, but ego won't carry you in those dark moments.
Right.
It will not. Knowing your why, and like, I feel like I do have a social obligation, I have a cultural obligation, my family name obligation. Like, okay, you Dr. Stewart, what you gonna do with it? Like, besides talk shit. Like, talking shit is cool, you know what I'm saying? But what are you doing? Like, you think that you don't just get this just so you can sit here and gloat.
Right.
What are you gonna do?
Like, now the real work begins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the next day after I defended, I remember the conversation my dad had with me about 11 years ago, and I never forget it. It was right before I turned 30. And he said, what's your purpose? I looked at him because my dad was one of those people. He'll hit you with like esoteric questions at like 11 o'clock on a Saturday over breakfast. Like, fam, I just woke up. We not finna go here. And he was like, what's your purpose? Like, what? He was like, you was put on this planet to do more than eat, sleep, shit, fuck, piss, and die. And I'm like, fam, can we finish breakfast before we get this deep? You know what I'm saying? But he was like, a person without a purpose just floats. Don't matter how much money you got. And I was like, all right, well, why did you do this? I know why I did it. Wanted to do it because I want to work in higher ed. There's certain positions I want to get. And now you got it, and you still going toward it. And that's the thing. Like, we all need to do inventories on ourselves regularly. Take inventory. Like, where am I at? What am I doing? And all that. And yeah, man, it's so much that afterward I'm just like, okay, sleep, which I'm still catching up on because, bro, this is the ultimate pledging process. I tell you that. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is a non-hazing organization, but the PhD process is pro-hazing like a big dog. Bro, yeah. So, it's just knowing that why, your purpose, and like, okay, I know why I got it. And then along the way, it's like you have a circle of orbit that you were blessed to impact. And I've been blessed to impact some people just in a short time since I've become Dr. Stewart. And my goal is to continue to make positive impact. That if I can help somebody, regardless of ethnicity, color, or whatever, to get to their goal, then I'm making an impact. Because again, when you lead as rock, none of this come with you. It's the impact that you made.
Right. Like I tell you, man, and I've said it a million times, and I'm gonna continue to say it a million more times. I'm proud of you, brother.
Appreciate it, brother. I really do.
Proud of you since day one, man. I've been proud of you before I even knew about Dr. Stewart. Before I even knew there was the potential to be Dr. Stewart. You know what I'm saying? I was proud of you from from a skate perspective. I was proud of you from an MC perspective. I was proud of you from a entrepreneurial perspective. And now it's just continuing to add to the list, you know? Yeah. So,
Well, I humbly accept that, and you're doing some pretty awesome stuff yourself with educating people on finance, crypto, podcasts. I'll keep up. I keep up. I keep track.
look. This ain't about me, man.
But I accept that, and a lot of people's words have shared the same, and it's done more than they know, including you. Like, cause bro, it was some days, man. I went through some things that what they say now, I'll put it in the book. I'll say that for the book. But it was some days, man. I was like, fuck this P, this H, this D, this whole process. All this shit can kick rocks.
Shit, man. Forget it.
You can have all of it,
Yeah.
But one of the songs to kind of bring it home is a skater, and we both JB skaters. The last 2 years, James Brown Paid the Cost has been like an anthem. And it was a song I've known it all my life, but after some things happened, that song hit different. You know what I'm saying? Where he recites it, look at me, what do you see? You see a bad mother. And the groove is what it is, but it's one of the things that anybody who done been through something to get something, man, that song hit your bones. You know what I'm saying? And I remember, I got off that call and, people calling me Dr. Stewart. And it was like, yeah, you did it, and we often don't want to admit that we like the adulation. We do to some degree, just don't go too far.
Right.
But I ain't gonna lie, so far I just been like, wow. Because I tell people, y'all don't do, and I mean, I covered a little bit of it. Like my pops passed last year. A year ago, actually, on the 20th, I almost died with my diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. You know what I'm saying? And we had just talked. You ain't even know. You know what I'm saying?
We didn't say nothing about it. Like you told me after the fact. I found out way after the fact.
Yeah,
I think it's like our second time talking. Like we did our second interview.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, brought that up. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. Going through the pandemic, you know what I'm saying? I lost a business partner in 2018. I lost another business partner last year. Under 45 Black men. One of them was frat. Just the people you lose along the way, the friends you lose along the way that don't understand that, why can't you do this? Like the skate parties, the kicking it, all that's the sacrifice because you believe in something. And, as I tell people, like, I've had 3 people like, yo, I want to do a PhD. And these are conversations I have. I don't push people away, but, I tell people, number one, if you just finished a master's degree, please take a year off. Don't do no school. Don't do that to yourself, because PhD is a whole different beast from masters. And I got 2 masters. Like, PhD process disrespected my master's degree. Like, nah, fam.
Treated like it was a high school diploma.
Bruh. Like, it was so disrespectful early on. Like, because I'm thinking, I got 2 masters. This gonna be a breeze. I felt like my man, Ha Davis. This gonna be a breeze, man. Look. And, the PhD process, I was told you have to allow it to transform you. And, that's kind of a dangerous word when you use transform, because you can change and forget who you are. But in my case, I didn't. And I went through other things that I even look at how I talk, how I move, and things like that from July of 2016 to now. And it is a military process if I'd never seen one. And you find out who you are at your core and what drives you. Getting to the finish line was, everyone was asking me like the last month. They were like, well, especially once I made my announcement that I'm going to defend. They were like, well, how do you feel? I was like, you've seen the Mogadishu Mile at the end of Black Hawk Down? That's exactly what this shit feel like. Like, you get shot at, people throwing rocks at you, you limping sick. That's exactly what this feel like. Because people were like, are you happy? Nigga, I'm tired. I'm tired, boss. So, even now, like, people ask, well, what's the process? Like, once you defend, you pass. Like, the thing is, you can't fail a defense. You may have revisions. I have some small revisions. I'm taking care of the final document. I submit that off, then it gets published. Okay. But once you pass your defense, you're doctor. you
Yeah.
know, and you know, one of the moments that I'll never forget, real talk, was on a call when everybody had to get off the line because I had to talk to my committee, and everybody was like, "Congrats, Doc!
I was
Congrats,
trying to
Doc!"
stay on because I wanted to record that last part though.
Yeah,
I was so
yeah, I
fast to
know.
kick me off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had to kick everybody off. But
Yeah.
just hearing it for the first time, like, and then the other thing that I did, which I couldn't resist because I said I was going to do this. So that night when I got done, when Eat came home, I hit up a couple of my cool coworkers and I sent the email to them. And the email said, "Please see my signature below. Have a nice weekend." Bro, I couldn't wait to put them letters on my name.
You talking about the flex? Oh my god, my dog
Bro,
popped all his collars
bro,
on that one.
I ain't never been so happy to send a report on a Monday, boy. I was like, go ahead, sit in this young 8 o'clock.
Nice.
You know, it was
Nice.
just like, let them see them letters. Let it shine.
Just a
And
little
it was
bit,
dope.
just a
And
little
it was
bit.
dope. You know, people have given props. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You got a couple of haters, but it's one of them things, man. Life is short, man. Celebrate the ups because the downs damn sure gonna come.
Right. Right.
You know, and like I said, I've been floating the last week and a half, like, yo, you're Dr. Stewart. Like, that's even saying it to myself because I put it on my phone when I started grad school, when I started
Mm.
in 16. So on my phone it said Dr. L. David Stewart. So to wake up the next day after defending, and it's like, you are now Dr. L. David Stewart.
Yeah.
And I went to the Halloween party in Chicago and I dressed up as a doctor.
Nice.
You know, I was like, I don't know what I mean. I was like, I'm not usually the one for the typical. I was like, fam, this is I'm one of those people. I wear costumes that mean something to me.
Right.
Like 1 year I dressed up as a pharaoh because Alpha Delta.
Of course. Of course.
1 year I was a baseball player. You know what I'm
You
saying?
played
Play baseball,
Yeah.
right? So I was like, I'm gonna be a doctor. You're a doctor, you know. And it was cool, you know. And then to hear people saying it like outside of an academic setting, you know.
Yeah.
One thing I love about Black people is, man, we celebrate our wins. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh,
Yeah,
like,
we
congrats,
celebrate.
Doc.
Right.
And it was like, damn, you really a doctor. Like, I remember just having the moments, and you know, some people would share personal anecdotes and stuff like that, and it was like, man, that's kind of when it really hit me, like, word, you know. And me and my sister joke, you know, because she was just like, I ain't gonna call you doctor, you know. But that's this, you know what I'm saying? That's different, you
Yeah.
know. And you know, as a family, we've had a cool year because my sister, who's in politics and where she lives at, she's a commissioner.
Oh, nice.
So it was like, you know, we were joking the other day, like, yo, this year, I was like, so we're gonna do a podcast together on one of hers, like, you know, so a commissioner and a doctor walk in a room, you know, and it's kind of cool, you know, like
This is
stuff
not
like,
walked in the room and they said, "Hey, bro,
right.
how you doing?" Well, I'm
Hey,
doing
what's up,
fine,
sis?
sis. How about yourself? Yeah.
Exactly. You know, so you know, the thing about it is too, it's been cool to enjoy my success at the moment, but I'm happy for so many other people too. You know, a lot of people poured into me to get to this moment. And as I
Right.
tell people, I don't mind taking in this moment because I clap for everybody, whether it's a GED or PhD, you know, because we've seen so much negative
Right.
that, man, when I see people winning, I don't care what the win is. I ain't even got to benefit from the win. I'm just like, yes, you know,
That's,
because that motivates me, man. Like,
yeah.
you cross, you had a kid, you got married. I don't care. I'm just like, to see people happy has been so rare in the last 2 years. So I'm just like, man, slow clap, you know, and for everyone that has, you know, given me congratulatory words and things, public and private, I appreciate it, you know, like I said, because man, my soul is still recovering. Because that final defense, man, like I went into it like a boxer. like, yo, I was in straight psychological warfare, man. Because you know, I knew some things kind of happened that I had to deal with beforehand. So I was just sitting there like, because some people was like, yo, you look so intense. You know, I was channeling some things. I was literally listening to Eminem's Till I Collapse until the camera came on for like 30 minutes. Dog, I was just sitting there like an angry animal. I felt like the dogs in Colombiana, like, eat. That camera came on. I was like,
right at the
I was
end.
like,
Yeah.
I was just sitting there trying not to rock, looking like I'm ready to fight. I'm like, all right, be calm, be cool, be saying, but you listen to Eminem for 30 minutes, you really are really, really raging inside. And when the other person came on, one of my boys was like, I knew you was on something when you were like, can we get started? I was like, bro, you had no idea. You had no idea how bad I want. And it wasn't even from a place of I want to get this over with. It was just like, I got something to say. Let's get
Right.
to
Let's
it.
do
You
it.
know what I'm
Yeah. Let's
saying?
do
And
this. Yeah.
got through it. And I'm as a performer, and now and maybe you can do this too, where you can be talking and there, but still be in your mind at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going through this data, and mind you, I had no notes. I mean, I had my notes, so it's not memorized. This is all from notes, and I'm thinking, first time I went to high school, first time someone told me I couldn't do it, the losses I've dealt with, graduating undergrad, uh, all these things, and I'm like, we're at this moment in time, and when as people reminded me, they're like, first off, who ends their dissertation with a Dave Chappelle quote?
This guy right here.
you know,
Yeah.
and
It was cold, man. Like I gotta say, and again, I'm gonna in the editing phase of this, I'm gonna attach the defense to this video when I re-upload. But I love the way you kept it black, bro. Like, I love the way you kept it black. Like, and especially to be defending with two white women.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
it was a lot. I'll just say it was a lot. And I'm a believer in intentionality.
Mhm.
I don't believe in compromising what you believe,
Right.
especially if there's no proof against why. Like if it just makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry. Right. But like I said, I went in there and I did feel like I carried family, ancestors and all that on my back, but I'm blessed to carry it. And
Mhm.
I know other people who've defended, like a couple of people on there, they just did their defense a couple months ago, a couple of my peers, we all talked about just the different things. Like I had like my boy who passed, I had on one of his watches. I had on my pop's ring. I had on, it was just so much that
Mhm.
culturally you just go in like, yo, this ain't just a defense for me. Like this, like Hove say, I do this for my culture. You know what I'm saying? I do this for my last name. I do this for the people who gave up. I do this for the people that didn't make it. Like this is for me, but then this is bigger than me.
Mhm.
And to kind of go through that experience, man, I don't. I be honest with you, I haven't watched the playback yet.
I was wondering if you had an opportunity.
It's
to actually
hard to
take a
watch
look
it
at
right now.
I
It's
believe
like
it.
the performer in me usually never watches the shows till later. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it's
Right.
like you were not only you were there, you were it.
Mhm.
And it's an out of body experience when it's just
Mhm.
like, all right, you keyed in. And traditionally defenses are done in person.
Right.
So, going back to technology, we're doing it on these computers, right? Like, and I'm kind of glad that I had the computer to kind of regulate me because, my energy was like Pac out of jail, to be honest with you. Like, if I'd have been in front of them, they might have been like, you, sir,
Okay.
sir, it's
Security.
right. Because it was just like, I was just so amped, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, the computer kind of allowed me to kind of like, all right, dog, you can't just be like rocking in your seat. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be studious, you got to
Yeah.
be calm, you got to be the
Yeah.
subject matter expert. But in my, my mind, I was like Eminem lyrics, Tupac lyrics, MOP. Like it was just like it was so much energy that I was like, all right, settle down, get through it, get to what you want to do, control the flow. The pitcher in me came back out like in baseball. I was like, control the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
You control the flow. And once I got in my zone, people have, sent me clips of me and I'm looking like, that was me.
Mm.
Because I was just so locked in. And like I said, I'm one of those people when I present, I really rather look you in the eye. So the fact that I
Mhm.
couldn't look at both of them was bothering me. But I was like, when y'all see the playback, I want you to feel the intensity in my eyes. I want you to, I want not quite uncomfortable, but I want you to understand that I stand on every letter, every dotted I, every T crossed that I'm talking about. Like,
Mm.
put my soul in this. Erica Badu said I'm sensitive by my shit. So, it was something that, man, like I
Real.
think I said maybe in another week I'm gonna like watch it, like sit down and watch it on TV and just study it because I'm like Brady. I study my performances, so it's like
Right.
there's some things I could have done differently, but this is a once in a lifetime thing because you went back,
Exactly. You did it exactly the way it was supposed to go, bro. Like,
because
hands down.
you asked me what's the next thing because people are like, what's the next move? I could tell you what I'm not doing. I'm damn sure not doing another one of these. Let the record reflect. I ain't doing. So you gonna do it? No,
No, I'm not. I'm not.
no. If they made another degree, fuck it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. Yeah. I got a bachelor's. I got 2 masters, and now I got a PhD. What more you want from me? All right.
You're good. You're good.
So it was,
Yeah.
and I've met people who've done 2 PhDs, and I was like,
Why?
fuck would you do
Why?
that? What
Like,
you want to be
where's
called?
your
Dr.
right?
Squared? Like, what you going to be called 2 Doc? Like, nah.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm glad that you allowed me, to capture that moment, to permanently imprint it in history.
Yeah, your platform is important, bro. Like, and I'm not just
Yeah.
saying that because you frat. Like, your platform is important. You touch a wide cross section of people, and it's one of those things that to reference Kanye. Like, no matter what happens, it's been documented. And that's something culturally that is so important because a lot of things in our community we don't document. It's not written. It's spoken word to word, but with this technology, it's documented. And
Right.
I'm thankful that you wanted to do that. And like I said, it's something that I hope that I know that defense will outlive me. That
It will.
in the annals of history, someone gonna look back at 2021 and be like, "Yo, who was Dr. Stewart? Who was this man that was passionate?" And I mean, ultimately, my goal is to increase that number of Black architects. But it was so much in that dissertation that was beyond just that. That it goes to what I speak about as influence and impact.
Yeah.
And to know that 3 years and a month was not in vain. Like I'm just getting started, but to know and see the impact of hard work, there's no feeling like it. I mean, it is like when you crossed, the first time you were called brother.
Yeah.
After you were called, before you were called something else that people don't need to understand.
People don't need to know about all that, but just know.
Right. But the first time that people now become your peer, become your brother, that feeling, it's interesting now to meet people that now are your peer and to know that you have done something that will be published and outlives anything you do is just like, that's awesome. Like, people know I did skate music, the song. That's a big contribution for me. Like that song has gotten way more legs than anything I've ever done lyrically. This now eclipses that this person has done something that is going to be published and in the library somewhere. And one day someone's going to study my research and go, I agree or I disagree.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, like, because my references, the paper itself, the references is 15 pages of references in this thing.
Yeah.
Bro, you don't know how much reading it did. I was tired. Bro, anybody, I just want a coloring book and comic books. Get to 2022. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to read anyway, but like, yeah, man. Like I tell people, they was like, oh, I want a copy of it. I was like, do you need to cure insomnia? Because this is your boss. This is cure insomnia. You get 30 pages through this, I'm proud of you. Because this right here.
Just know, bro, that the way you were quoting Whitney Young, someone's gonna be quoting you.
Yeah, which is cool.
That big. Yeah, it's just that big.
Yeah, man. And like I said, lastly, I do want to say that anybody that's looking to get into the PhD process, Black or non-Black, I can give you some pointers. I don't sugarcoat shit. Yeah, like because I've had so many people like, yo, I'm thinking about doing it. Seeing you, I want to do it. I was like, whoa, there. Oh, it's so much more to this than people realize, man. But I tell anyone, if you're passionate, you put your mind to it, you can do it, but it ain't gonna be easy. And as someone who made it through the other side, you can do it, but You're going to crawl, you're going to cry, you're going to scream, you're going to break shit. Like I said, it felt like I was going through a membership intake process because Alpha Phi Alpha
I
Fraternity
was
Incorporated is
just
a
about to say,
non-political group.
it sounds eerily familiar to something that we all have had to do
Bruh,
once in our life.
bruh, bruh. I felt like I crossed. I was just like,
Yeah,
man, because people, oh my God, you want to celebrate, man? If you don't get, you know what you can do? You
leave me
can cash at
alone.
me.
Leave me alone.
You
Yeah,
leave me alone. But I don't. I
yeah.
told a good friend of mine who's former military. I was like, the best, and I'm not military, but I know I've heard this process. In the military, when you discharge, you have a called a DD 214. You know, to discharge. And I was like, I
Mhm.
felt like this was the last day in. Took this uniform off, and I ain't never got to do this shit again. That's exactly what this is. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
closed that computer and I literally just sat there for about 20 minutes, just like this, just like processing what just happened. And I mean, it was a blessing. It was only supposed to be an hour long, but so many people were on it and
Yeah,
commentary and all that,
yeah.
you know. So I was like, I've really been in a 2-hour boxing match. And I would say no, I was in a 1-hour boxing match because everybody else was peers, And my biggest takeaway that I hope the committee realized is the people that asked questions and were listening were powerful individuals in their own right
Mhm.
that I did not want to be lost. And I want to have stated for the record. You had PhDs, you had current people getting ready to defend, you had government officials, you had designers, architects, you had such a wide slew of people. And the reason that was important for me is it goes back to influence and impact. That those people who were on that call valued me and or what I was talking about enough to be on a call to hear that. And to me, that is just amazing. So that is what I was one of my biggest takeaways from it.
Yeah. And like to actually be engaging, you know,
Yes.
yeah, like they were fully, I say we, because I was definitely a part of that crew,
Mm-hmm.
were fully engaged to the point to
Mm-hmm.
where, and I know I'm long winded in certain respects, and I had so much that I wanted to, ask just coming from hearing your defense. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna let, the family, the friends, get their comments in because it felt so good just hearing their energy,
Mm-hmm.
hearing the way that even, and I could tell who were the current PhDs that were
Mm-hmm.
commenting on your defense because when they would ask a question that would somewhat challenge your stance, but at the same time compliment it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they knew exactly how to toe that line so that it would allow you to further excel, like to further show the committee how much research you've actually done on this.
I mean,
They,
iron sharpens iron, bro.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
said, a couple of them, like actually one of them, one of the long-winded one was my pledge son, Dr.
really.
Brown.
Uh,
And seeing his journey, he just became Dr. Brown in April. And I've known brother Dr. Brown since 2001. And brilliant brother, like painfully brilliant. Like
mhm,
just, and seeing him and him speaking to it. And it's like we pushed each other. Like one of my good friends who's the Kappa, he just defended. He pushed me, I pushed him. And some other people who getting ready to defend, they pushed me, I pushed them. Like iron sharpens iron, bro.
of
Like at
course.
this level, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because it's like you're going to exist in a space where the rest of your life you have to watch what you say. and
And
that's something that,
scrutinize every word.
well, no, they actually tell you that like early in your program. Like they say one of the reasons that the process is so rigorous is that the rest of your life, people are gonna attribute their right or wrong to speaking to you. Bro, I'd be damned if that shit ain't true. Because that's been happening to me for the last 2 years. Which is why, one of the things I tell people, I'm very clear. Well, I'll be like, well, based on my opinion, based on my
Yeah.
observation.
Yeah.
Because the reason I say that as a qualifying statement is I've seen it where people be like, oh, I talked to somebody who's getting a PhD. Fam, we talking about medicine. My doctorate is not in medicine. Let's clarify that. And the other thing that this process teaches you is what you don't know. And because people are like, man, for someone that's like a PhD, you just not. I'm like, the truth of the matter is that when you get a PhD, you become an expert in something this granular,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
in the scope and scale of the world. I don't know nothing. And the more you learn, the more you don't know.
The more you realize. Yeah.
So it's been a humbling. Like I went into this arrogant. And when I say, that my chair has Mr. Miyagi me, like, yes, Daniel son. Like, it was some times during that process I was like, fam, you ain't finna just be talking to me like any kind of way. Like, I'm gonna see you like,
Like, what you say about my mama? Yeah.
you're right. But it goes to that transformation. And
Yeah.
as I tell people, I'm a subject matter expert in something that is very minute. And I'm a lifelong learner. Now, I'm very clear, I ain't going back to school, but I am a lifelong learner. And you're always learning. Today's research is tomorrow's history.
Right.
Tomorrow's history is the next day's research, and it's just
Right.
a circle. So, for me, it's just kind of like, and then on a personal note, it was a lot because Pops passed a little more than a year ago.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I really haven't had that big emotional moment yet. But I felt spiritually, my parents were with me, and it was one of them things like, you supposed to be here, like, and believe it or not, that was part of the energy and anger I carried, because I'm just like, I ain't gonna be emotional. My sister made everybody cry though.
It is.
Yo, she got on there. It wasn't a dry eye. Like I told her, I was like, you almost got me. You tried.
I remember that part. I remember she was talking. Yeah.
she was talking, and I love my sis, and we've come a long way together. We're 8 years apart, but we're thick as thieves now. We kind of had to learn each other, and she is the elder in that sense. But she was there, and she's been there since changing my diapers. So and it was a moment for her that we talked, like, because I was there for her when she won her election. And it's just like, it's one of them things that when you have life moments, certain people ain't there, and it's like, y'all want to call, and I likened it, I likened it to when Jordan won that fourth ring. His pops died
right after. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And for me, like, we had his memorial service on Father's Day 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And on a personal level, I feel like I can grieve now, because it was like, I'm not grieving. I can't grieve until I get this done.
Yeah, you're not done yet.
Yeah. So and it goes to a reference that I had. People were like, who makes a Thanos reference during a dissertation? Because people were like, well, what are you going to do? I was like, yo, have you seen the end of Infinity War? That's how I feel. I just want to sit down, get my Otis Red nose, sitting by the dock of the bay and contemplate life. Fuck I want to do. I'm talking about what I want to do. I want to sit and think about how this finger snap changed the goddamn world. That's what I want to do. So, yeah, man, it was just so many moments like, yo, like, you did it. And I felt my parents with me spiritually, my grandma, a few other people, but it was just like, and then just reflecting, like, yo, my pops would have been like, yeah, no, you was gonna do it. Moms was here, she'd have been talking cash money shit. How parents is.
Oh yeah.
I still ain't gonna call your doctor. Like, we were joking about that with my mom. She was like, I still ain't gonna call your little ass doctor. Like, I get it. But family is back me, friends back me. And like I said, having that village, man.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when the call started, I was like the second person on. And it's sad because I wish I could have seen who all was on, because people were telling me like, yo, that damn list was like, yo.
It was over 50 something people on the thing, man.
And I didn't know it until the chair said it, because like I said, I was like, yo, I was like the animals tattooed on me. I was like that wolf stalking prey, bro. Bro, nothing, no one mattered. I was just like, yo, these women finna get these bars, yo. They finna get these bars. But like when she said it was almost like 60 people in the call,
mm-hmm.
I was taken aback. I'm still trying to find out who was and who wasn't on it, because I was just like, bro, I was pit bull locked. And I was like, damn. And for her to say that, it was just like, on a cultural level, it was like, if you thought I was by myself, I wouldn't.
Not even.
And some people told me like, yo, I was at work and I'm listening to it, and then there's a room of 30 other people in here with me listening. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, like
It
my
was an
boy.
event, bro. It was kind of like I likened it to waiting to see when you get drafted. Like, it was like a
Yeah,
draft
that's a good
party.
one. I never thought of that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah, because you know, I'm glad people had it muted because some people were telling me like they was just going nuts on certain things I was saying. Like, yo, all my bros
Yeah.
in Toronto was just licking shots, just going
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah,
I was like,
my girl, she was listening to it because of course I was recording it. I
right,
had the whole production set up and everything, and I had it on my phone, so I was getting
yeah,
it from multiple areas.
yeah, yeah,
And she
yeah.
was listening to it, and she was plotting certain things, and she was commenting on some of the stuff you were saying, and she was going off on. I was like, look at this man, like totally engaged. When I say totally engaged, bro, like we
Yeah,
were
yeah.
totally engaged with that entire situation, man.
Bro, I had folks from all walks of life there. Like it was some skaters on there. It was quite a few skaters on there.
Yeah.
You know, clients, co-workers, family, you know what I'm saying? And then like I said, that influence and impact, man, like
Mhm.
it's one of those things, man, that, you know, I think at one point I kind of like I was just looking briefly while they were talking, and I just rolled it toward the end and I was like, yo, like I was like in my mind, I was like, yo, you know, I had to get my Andre ice cold. You know, but
Right.
I'm in my mind,
Bring
I'm
back.
like, I'm looking on the other side, like, all these people in here to
Yeah.
see this shit. Like, this is after
Yeah.
I done it now, so it's the comments. You know, and some people I didn't even know were there until they commented because I was like, oh
Mm.
shit, you're here. You know, and then
Yo,
some
that's the
people
thing. It took like 20 minutes for people to just say bye.
right, right. You know, and it was dope because like the conversation that you didn't hear
Mm.
after you know we got off, it was some words we exchanged, and they were like, "Oh, great job, blah blah blah. We thought this, we thought that." You know, and you know when people repeat stuff, you pay attention, and they were like,
Yeah.
"We have never seen that many people here for a dissertation." And what I wanted to go, I was like, "You didn't think people fuck with your boy?"
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Come
Yeah.
on.
You know,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
one of the things as my old pastor would say, I hear what you're saying, but I hear what you ain't saying too.
Yeah.
But we talked and it was a victorious moment, and they were so proud and all that. And I was just like, bet you are. You got these bars, that's what you got. You
Yeah.
caught these
Yeah.
bars.
If we could
And
have cut to their faces, they probably had a few moments where their mouth was just dropped.
I've been told
Yeah.
that happened a couple of times. And
Yeah.
even down to, of course, I had the fraternity coat of arms blazer on. I had to rep, alpha man. It was just so many things I did. Like I said, I got the young you dig over the shoulder.
I've been watching it the whole time. I was like, all
Yeah,
right, I
yeah,
rocked
yeah,
with it. I
yeah,
switched up the studio because we moved to a new house. So
yeah.
remember before, I always had my alpha. I call it my alpha shrine.
Yeah, I
But
remember that. That was
yeah,
right
it was
there.
always
Yeah,
there
yeah, yeah.
behind me. So now I'm in a different location. I'm in my different office in the studio, and
Mhm.
I gotta get some type of paraphernalia behind me, man. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm about to say I didn't see the Sphinx. I didn't see none of that. I'm like,
Nothing,
oh, yeah, you
nothing.
you
Yeah,
make it.
I got it out in the main living room now. So when you walk into the house,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you gonna see it. There's no question
Okay,
about
okay.
it. Yeah, yeah.
And it was dope. Frat actually frat had posted it in online in one of the main frat rooms in Sphinx
Mm,
layer.
mm,
And he posted it first, like, congrats, brother Stewart. And just to see the brother saying something, man, it was just like, wow.
yeah.
And again, I told him, I was like, bro, that touched me just to get the words from the brothers.
Mm,
I made the public announcement, it still comments still dinging, and it's just not about that. It's the conversations that are happening behind the scenes. Like I said, people who are just happy or man, you motivated me, and
yeah.
at the end of the day, man, it's so many people motivated me to keep going and doing that. And to me, that's the circle of life.
Mm.
And because I actually got to get ready to go, but I will share this with you.
Look,
And
man, I
people
didn't even
know,
realize how long we've been talking. You know how
yeah,
we get
we've been
together.
rapping. You know how it is, right?
Yeah.
So people like, when's the graduation? Most likely, I think it'll be in 2022 spring.
Mm,
But I have a tradition that I've always done, and I get to do one last time. So when I graduated in 2003, I came skating in my cap and gown.
For real?
It's up. It's up. So I'm looking like a Negro superhero letting that. Whoa. Oh, 2008. Got my first master's. Got the little thing on top of it. Negro superhero. Whoa. Flying around doing one stops and everything. My second master's, I was like, I ain't gonna do that one because if I get a PhD. But I sure as I'm breathing, bro, I can't wait to get that gown and that the PhD Donnie Hathaway floppy
the big
hat.
hat. Yeah,
Bro,
yeah.
I'm gonna have that boy like Donnie Hathaway tip like T.I. AC Doocy on the side. You dig? Bro, I'm going on tour with that thing. You hear me? That
Hey,
I'm
make
gonna
sure
be
you come down here.
sweating. Bro, I'm gonna be
Make sure you
sweating in
come
that
down here so I
velvet.
can catch a picture of it with you. So I can be the sidekick to the Negro superhero.
But one of the reasons I did that, and it's something that I've seen other skaters do it, is that I tell people in our skating community, you don't know who you skate next to, you know. And I've had people tell me like, "Yo, they're motivated." Like I've seen skaters here do it in other places, and I may not have been the first, but I know I was first. I've seen do it, and I love when I see skaters come and they cap and gown, you know, and they Gale skating because it's like that lets you know that these people we're united by this thing, but they're more than one dimensional.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, so many skaters congratulated me because it's like, all right, you like you said, you may know Nizam, made skate music, you know, Nizam, MC, Nizam, Suicide Kings, but you know, there's this other side. And you know, my thing is to this, you know, skate community, man. I want to motivate. It's some people in the skate community working on PhDs or some MDs and things like that. A couple of them I reached out to. I'm like, yo, you next. Like, yo,
Tasha, she's working on her PhD right now. Tasha Reed.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. You know, so my thing is, I think as a community, we need to see that because it goes back to that visibility piece we talked about. You know what I'm saying? Like we know the skaters that are rappers and this like that. It's like, yo, to be able to be like, yo, dude, Dr. So-and-so, you know, exactly. But my thing is, it's just not about it. It's like, if you think I'd rather you appreciate the educator than the skater.
Right.
You know, and, you know, I'll close with this. One of the things me and my dad used to go back and forth about was me playing baseball. Little known fact, I was scouted by a major league team at 17, but he didn't want me to do it. And that was a source of contention, you can imagine.
Of course.
I accepted it because I trust my dad's advice, but it finally made sense to me 2 months ago. He said, I don't want you to be a body. I want you to be a brain. And hitting this, if he was here, I'd be like, all right, man, I got it. Okay. Yep. He was like, ain't nothing wrong with you. You good at what you do, but don't be a body, be a brain. So, man, so I'm gonna get ready to wrap it up, bro. As always.
I appreciate you, my brother. I'm gonna do a shameless plug too, real quick.
Go ahead.
Plug. So, you know how you literally just touched on the fact that we have so much talent in the skate community outside of just skating. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically the what I want to say, the purpose behind I do a spin-off podcast of this. It's the Word to Be Heard. Skating is a Habit podcast. And what we do is we go to different skate events and we broadcast from the skate events, and we'll bring people in. We call it coming into the skate room, and we'll bring people in and actually interview them and give them the opportunity to talk about what they do outside of skating, so we can showcase the talent that we have outside of skating.
Absolutely, man. Keep doing that, bro. Keep doing that.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that's happening behind the scenes. I don't talk big about it. You know, I just post whenever things happen. You know, because I'm too busy. Too busy to make announcements.
Preaching to the choir, bro. Keep me posted on that. And like I said, if you know any, I'll forward some folks to you, man. And like I said, thank you for allowing me to express myself. Thank you for recording it.
Thank you for letting me be a part of this, man. It's history, man. This is gonna live forever. And I can't say thank you enough, bro. Again, I'm proud of you, man. I love you as a brother from all walks of the world. You know what I'm saying? Love you as a frat brother, love you as a skate brother, love you as a, you know, an actual brother.
Hey, love you to life, bro. It's always a pleasure, man. So get some rest, man, and we'll be talking.
No doubt, man. And I want to thank everybody who joined this momentous, exclusive, historic, all the words that I could use to continue to talk about this moment for my brother, man. Just want to thank y'all for tuning in. And until the next time, we'll catch you on the next one. We out of here.